What's up, robots? So I just spent like 5 minutes talking about a tier list that I made 5 months ago, and then realised that my mic wasn't working. So you've got a bunch of stuff drawn on the screen that's going to make no sense to you, but I'm not going to redo it all. So this is a tier list that I made 5 months ago. I'm going through and I'm going to potentially start a new series where I go through some of the lower tier stuff and see if I still agree with my own tier list. So we're going to move on to that video in a minute, but I just want to quickly run through some of the thought process on this. So this was all white weapons, taking out of the equation any random fixes we could have and build potentials. So for the most part, I still agree with top tier. I don't take the mortar on every single build. It is kind of situational, but it's still a very high priority pick. All the other three are, you can basically fit them into any build and they'll be fine. They're consistently great. Anyone who's watched any of my videos knows I take the Arbalist all the time. It's probably actually now a priority pick for a lot of my builds. So that could potentially be moved up. The LMG I rarely ever take, but I still stand by that it's got really good damage to clip to kill time ratio. Which is what a lot of this was based on, because yeah, as I said, it was all white damage and weapon. I didn't damage count everything, but I damage calculated a lot of it. They're consistently great for bossing weapons. They're good, but they are just lower damage than the laser saw, so unless you've got an agenda in mind or other uses, generally these don't see as much play, because if you just have a laser saw that drops, you're just going to take the laser saw over them. The situationally great, I'm going to stand by most of these options. I do think that the throwing knife is probably lower tier than I've placed it here. It's a personal preference, I really like it, but it's probably not as good as I've placed it realistically. Consistently good, yeah, these are fine. This weapon that I've highlighted here is potentially the only one that shouldn't be here, but its DPS stat wise and on paper is actually pretty good. People undersell the Blunderbuss and Blast Shotty. They are amazingly good room clear weapons. If you get bounce or piercing or anything like that on them, they just start to shred. Arquebus could probably be higher tier, but I do feel like it relies a little bit more on affixes than the stuff that are above it, which is why it's where it is. These should be good on paper. I've actually started to really enjoy the flat cannon a lot. It does get ridiculously strong in certain builds. Now this was a tier list that ignored builds, so it's like, it's okay as a base weapon, but it's probably one of the weapons that scales some of the hardest on this list. Because it has so many categories that can just build with it. It's such a good weapon, such a versatile weapon, and yeah, it just can stack ridiculous on Guardian or Commandos. You've probably seen in some recent videos. The situationally good, most of these, like there's actually 3 weapons on here that I actually really enjoy using. And I actually think are decent, but they're all kind of ones that shine best if you've got affixes or builds that go around them, and I wouldn't really use the bow past like the first boss and stuff like that. And then I've got the meh options. This gun here I've fallen in love with recently. I've even been using it in speed runs if there's no better option, because it can give you small rocket jumps. It deals decent damage. It's got innate burn, which means that the burn percentage is higher than if you roll an affix onto a weapon and give it burn, which is why it performs a lot better than it looks like it should on paper, which I didn't really take into account properly when doing the tier list. I suspect that the minigun is better than I've given it credit for as well. And then you've got these 3 weapons here, which get used in speedruns because they give melee damage, or they give ability damage bonus of 20%, so they're actually really strong, but not for DPS like this tier list is made for. Then we've got the avoid. I probably did the rocket launcher dirty here. It should probably be in situationally good, or should be good on paper, because the rocket launcher itself isn't very good, but once you've got affixes on it, it can become like a priority pick, and in certain builds it's a priority pick. Most of the rest of the guns I kind of think should be down here. Like, they're good, you can play with them, you can make them work, other than that. Probably that. And that. Like, these two should be in the never, in my opinion. Then we come to the never. I've actually come to like this gun in very specific builds, so it could be moved up into situationally good, but again, this tier list is more about the weapon than the build itself. Tommy gun is what the run that we're about to see is actually based on, and I'm going to do a little chat at the end to see how I felt about it. But otherwise I think everything here deserves it. Like, these two weapons are just worse than melee abilities. This weapon is a waste of space and time. This weapon, some people like it, I just don't like the way it plays, the damage it deals, the reload time, anything really. And then we've got unique ones at the bottom that there's not really much point talking about. But we'll go into the video. I'm not going to do it, there's no commentary throughout the video, and then at the very end I will try to do a little breakdown on what I thought about the guns and how they performed. So we'll move on and see you in a bit. What's good, robots? So hopefully you just finished watching the run. So the two Tommy guns that we had, one we had pretty much from the start had increased crit chance, magazine size and fire rate on it in greens. Those three actually combo really nice with it. It kind of makes the Tommy gun feel bearable. And then we also had burn and warm up. Now warm up you could really feel the impact of it, and being able to kill the Goliath in the first area in pretty much one clip felt huge, and like I'd undersold the gun this whole time, made me basically reconsider where it should be on the tier list, which will probably surprise some people because it is a bit of a meme in the community of me hating on the Tommy gun. However, late game the Tommy gun still underperformed in my opinion. It didn't feel great, still killed Goliath quite slow, multiple clips to do what I needed it to do, and I feel like the affixes carried it pretty hard because I actually picked up a second Tommy gun, which didn't perform as well as the first Tommy gun that I picked up, like even half as well. I felt really like you probably, if you go back to the video, you'll notice that I kept trying to use the other Tommy gun because it should have been as good in the situations where I was using it, and then towards the end I just started only using one Tommy gun, the first Tommy gun, because it was just so much better. But the follow-up one had increased fire rate, increased burn damage over time, and increased reload speed. Now the reload speed didn't really come into effect because I was pocket reloading when I was using it, so maybe that had something to do with it. And then it had two blues because both Tommy guns rolled epic as well, which is pretty cool. So we had ricochet on it and burn. Now we also had critical hits ricocheting, so I thought having a Tommy gun with ricochet and critical hits ricocheting with a really high crit chance build would feel really good and give me really good room clear, but it just ended up feeling like it was doing a lot less damage, and I think a lot of it comes down to the crit chance. You don't really notice the burn damage increase of 15% on such a low damaging weapon. They both had fire rate, and then obviously quick load didn't come into effect. So the biggest thing is, I guess, magazine size versus blaze. 25% increased magazine size was about, I don't remember exactly, I think it was 12 or 15 more shots at least, which is quite a big deal. That's what, like 250 plus damage, if not more, where the 15% additional burn probably didn't equal that much of a difference. And then you had the increased fire rate, and obviously I also had infinite ammo at some stages, so the increased fire rate when you've got infinite ammo is quite big and very noticeable. It would have been nice if I'd checked what fire rate we actually went up to with warm up, because a 25% increase to 11 shots a second would be quite high. But yeah, so the overall breakdown early on, it definitely feels like it can carry its own up until about Energy Center, but I do feel like if you compare it to some of the things I've got higher up on the list, like the Arquebus and the Arbalist and Laser Saws, like they never feel like they're starting to be lackluster. They always feel relevant, and Tommy gun really did start to feel a little bit lackluster towards the end. Probably better than I rate it, but I don't enjoy buckshot, and it comes with an 8 buckshot, and it kind of rotates around the idea of using buckshot, so it does lose some points there just because of how I feel about buckshot in general. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave your comments below if you like this idea of going through some of my old tier list stuff and seeing if I think anything deserves to be higher or not. Give myself a bit of a challenge playing with worse weapons, and yeah, thanks very much. See you later.